Hi everyone, Heather here with astrolotta.com, and I am back with another video. And today we're going to be talking about the planet Venus and its influence in the birth chart throughout all 12 zodiac signs. And so I'm going to be going through each sign individually, but first I'm just going to talk a little bit about Venus and what it actually represents in the chart. So Venus in the birth chart represents a lot of different things, right? And so for this video, I'm going to focus on sort of the primary thing, or the thing that I feel is, quite important, just for the sake of time, and because, there's so many different things we could talk about with Venus. We could do like a 30-minute video at least for each sign. But we're going to talk about Venus as your love language. And so Venus represents the way that we love, that we want to show love and appreciation to other people, the way that we show people or tell people or demonstrate to others that we care for them, and the way that we want love and appreciation shown to us in return. And so that's why I say that it represents sort of like our love language, right? And so it shows us the way that we display love. Some of the other things Venus represents is sort of, it represents the things that we value in terms of experiencing pleasure, right? So it shows us what we do in order to kick back, relax, and to enjoy ourselves. It shows us what we value in terms of the way that we spend our money and our resources. And so, that's part of it as well. And that's alongside the ruler of the second house, that also shows what you like spending money on, or what you feel most comfortable spending money on. And then the second house itself shows sort of how you go about spending money and dealing with your finances and all of that. But Venus, is one of the influences that shows that. For example, I have Venus in the sign of Cancer conjunct my moon, right? And so, there are two different areas where I don't mind spending money. And one of those is on making my home more beautiful and more comfortable. So spending money on things like artwork for my home, or, like furniture or throw pillows and things like that. Even back in the day when I was in grad school, I was living in Chicago and I was very broke. I would still, go out and go to the clearance section at World Market and find, cute things to decorate my home. And so that's something that I don't mind spending money on. And another thing too is like the second house cusp, right? And so this is irrelevant to the whole Venus topic, but, looking at the ruler of the second house cusp can also give you an indication of what you spend your money on, or where you feel most comfortable, what you place the most value on in terms of distributing your resources, right? And so my second house cusp would be in Sagittarius. And so one of the other things that I don't mind spending money on is travel. I'll, go broke just to travel the world. So those are, different examples, right? And so, and my husband has Capricorn on the second house cusp, and he is very, very diligent about making sure that he pays his bills. He likes to pay all the bills all on time and all of that. And he spends money on things that we need, that are very responsible, right? But he's a little bit more frugal with our resources and all that. So that's kind of, anyway, that's beside the point. We're talking more about Venus. So Venus has a similar representation, right? It shows us where we don't mind spending money. It also shows us, for women in particular, Venus has an association with feelings of self-worth, right? Lovability, attractiveness. And I mean, this goes for both sexes, but especially for women, it shows, the way that we care for our appearance. It shows what we value in terms, or the way that we feel that we show up in terms of our value, right? And the way that we value ourselves, or, the way that we maybe don't value ourselves. And a lot of that can be mirrored through our relationships as well, and through the partners that we choose. And so, Venus has a whole bunch of different things that it represents. But in this video, and for the sake of keeping this concise, I'm going to focus on Venus as our love language, right? And so I am going to be going through Venus through all 12 zodiac signs. But this is going to be sort of a generalized reading or interpretation of Venus in the signs. You also, of course, have to account for, what house it's in, what planetary aspects and alignments are taking place in the birth chart, because those can change things substantially. For example, if you have, let's say Venus in Cancer, right? You have Venus in Cancer, and so you should want to, show your love and appreciation in a way that's very nurturing, very loving, very supportive. You want that deep emotional connection. But if you have, this Venus in Cancer, let's say conjunct Mars, it's going to be a much more direct, much more passionate expression of love, right? So that's going to change things a little bit. So anyway, so we'll get into all 12 signs. All right, so we'll start with Aries. And so for Aries, Venus and Aries people show their love very directly, very bluntly. They're very straightforward and very to the point. Venus and Aries can be very flirtatious. All the fire signs really can be very flirtatious, along with Gemini, which is a whole different story. But, Venus and Aries can be very playful, very demonstrative, in terms of the way that they show their love. They just tell you straight up. They're very blunt. They're very straightforward in their expression of love, their expression of appreciation for other people. They also tend to be very passionate in relationship. They need deep passion. They need excitement. They need newness in their relationships in order to keep them, to keep them engaged in the relationship, to keep them excited about the relationship, to keep their interest. So sometimes Venus and Aries people, especially earlier on, can tend to jump from relationship to relationship because they like the newness that they experience. They like that initial period where things are very passionate and very exciting and sort of thrilling for them. So they can be sort of, serial, I wouldn't say serial monogamous, but, they go from relationship to relationship. And, that's because they really, really enjoy that fresh new experience. And so for a Venus and Aries person, the way to engage in relationship and to keep things fresh, right? To constantly be doing new and exciting things within the partnership in order to keep that partnership going, to keep that flame alive, right? And so there's this constant seeking of new experiences, new excitement, new passions within the relationship. So you have to kind of keep things fresh with a Venus and Aries person. Otherwise, they do tend to lose interest and go off in a different direction. And doing things that are very active and engaging is very important for a Venus and Aries person. Also, a Venus and Aries person tends to be usually very passionate sexually. So they need to have that sexual fire, that sexual attraction, and that passion going in their relationship in order to keep engaged and to keep their interest, right? And that's true for a lot of relationships and a lot of different signs, but that's especially true for Venus and Aries. And it's less true for other signs, and we'll get into that as well. But yeah, Venus and Aries, needs very direct in the way that they express their love, and they like their love and appreciation expressed to them in return from other people in a way that's very direct. They don't like beating around the bush, game playing, any of that kind of stuff. They just want you to say it how it is, right? You either like them, you don't, you tell them, that's it. So that's, Venus and Aries. Venus and Taurus. Venus is at home in Taurus. Venus in Taurus is a very nice placement for Venus. It expresses itself through showing a love and appreciation through touch, through tactile sensation, through the sensory experience. So they like to be hugged and kissed and touched and, cuddled and all of that. And they're deeply, deeply sensual and sensory. And so they express their love and appreciation through touch, through feeling, through giving hugs to their friends, all that kind of stuff. A lot of times they also really like to give and receive gifts, especially things that are of true value. So like really nice, fine craftsmanship and things like that. They would appreciate that. They would like to spend their money on those things, and they would like to give you gifts like that, right? And receive those in return. Another thing too that's associated with Taurus is food, right? And so they like to show their love by either cooking good food or having good food cooked and served to them, right? Or going out to really nice restaurants and things like that. But they like to share that experience of sensation, taste, touch, smell, even visuals and things like that too, but they like to enjoy that sensory experience. They appreciate beauty. They appreciate really good sort of like comfort foods and really well-made sorts of foods with like really good, really sort of flavorful ingredients and things like that. And so, a Venus and Taurus person, the way to win them over is, usually through their stomach. It's cooking for them. It's allowing them to indulge in the sensory pleasures and indulging in those sensory pleasures with them. So the way that they want love and appreciation shown to them is in a similar way. So they want to show in a way that's like demonstrative, right? With touch, with feeling, with sensation, with hugs and kisses and all of that. And also, with gifts and, through food. They also like to, spend time in nature, spend time sort of just decompressing. They like to sort of kick back and relax with their partners. And so, that's a little bit about Venus and Taurus and how they engage in relationship. Gemini, so Venus and Gemini is a little bit different. Venus in Gemini wants really good, really witty, lighthearted communication. And Venus in Gemini is notorious for being highly flirtatious, right? So this is a very flirtatious sign. They're very playful. They'll flirt with you kind of in a childlike way where they'll like pick on you and, tease you and things like that. But they're very, very flirtatious. And it's not just that they'll flirt in their current relationship. They'll flirt with everyone a lot of the times. And it doesn't mean they're not interested. It doesn't mean that they can't have one steady, stable relationship. They do like to engage and indulge in that flirtatiousness, outside of the relationship or even in their friendships a little bit. They kind of flirt with you. It's kind of an interesting thing, but they really like to have witty, lighthearted, good communication. They want to have their curiosity piqued, right? You need to keep them on their toes. You need to constantly be learning with these people, moving with these people. They really appreciate people who have a good amount of intelligence and who can teach them things, right? Who they can teach and who they can learn from in return when it comes to, just because they tend to be very curious about a lot of different things. And so, that's sort of the Venus and Gemini relationship. It's not that they're seeking necessarily this huge, deep emotional connection, although I'm sure that they might enjoy that, later on down the line, but they really like that flirtatiousness. They really like to be mentally stimulated through conversation, and they like to engage in play, right? Doing things that are playful and childlike within the partnership. Going on dates like to an arcade or something like that, where you're going and playing games together. That would be something that a Venus and Gemini person might enjoy more so than like, a Venus and Capricorn, who would be a completely different story, right? And so, so that's Venus and Gemini. So for Venus in Cancer, Venus and Cancer are nurturers. They want to show their love and appreciation by taking care of people, by supporting them, by nurturing them in whatever way they can best do that. And so Venus and Cancer people, they might like to cook for you, right? And to give you really nice, really nourishing comfort foods. It's kind of like that Venus and Taurus, right? It's a similar expression, except it's not about the taste and the sensation and indulging in that like it is with Venus and Taurus. It's more about providing something that nurtures and supports that other person, right? That nurturing energy. So you can do that through, taking care of somebody when they're sick. They might do it through, cooking for that person, through supporting them through, emotional turbulence, and just being there, being that support system. And they want that deep emotional connection. They want to understand you on an emotional level. They want you to share your emotions with them, and they want to share their emotions with you and to feel like they can trust you, right? And they crave safety, security, and stability in relationships as well. So they want to know that they're safe with you. They want to know the relationship is secure. They want to know that they can count on you, and they want to show you that you can count on them, right? That they'll be there to support you, to catch you when you fall. And so that's a lot of the Venus and Cancer energy. It's almost like a motherly energy, but not necessarily in that way, right? Where they want to take care of you and make sure that you're okay, and they want to be there to lift you up and to support you when you need it most. And they would like that from you in return, right? They want an emotional support system. And Venus and Cancer people, they tend to move in with their partners a little bit more quickly than the other signs, because they want to keep you close, right? They want to keep you close to home. And so that's Venus in Cancer. Venus in Leo is a little bit different. Venus in Leo is very passionate, very playful. It's another one that's very playful and very flirtatious, but they show their love and appreciation. Their love language is through big romantic gestures, right? They want to take you out and romance you. They want to like have that candlelit dinner. They want to take you out dancing. They want to do things that are like very romantic. They'll be the ones that'll like have a rose petals leading to the bedroom or something like that. Something where it's sort of, cheesy, over the top romance, but that's what they like. And that's what they crave in return. They want you to show them that you love them with these big romantic gestures, bringing them flowers, bringing them chocolates, taking them out, showing them off, right? They want to be shown off and they want to show you off, right? They want to show off their love. That's, kind of the Venus and Leo energy. It's a showy energy when it comes to love. They're not hiding away and pretending, like if a Venus and Leo person is in a relationship and they're happy, you're going to know about it because they're going to be, displaying it to the world, because that's just kind of the nature of Venus and Leo. And they want you to do the same. They feel most comfortable in relationship, or they feel loved in relationship when you're showing them off also. So, if you're not posting your photos on Facebook, they might kind of get angry, like, why aren't you tagging me in these photos? Or why aren't you posting this? Why aren't you telling your friends about us? That kind of thing. They want to be seen, right? They want to be seen as a couple. But they do like the grand romantic gestures. They like deep, passionate, romantic relationships. They can be quite loyal, even if they are flirtatious. They're another sign that can be quite flirtatious, sometimes outside of the relationship as well. But usually they're quite loyal when they're in relationship, and they're very invested and very passionate for that relationship. They want to do things that are also very generous for the other person, because Leo is a sign associated with generosity, right? It's sharing from the heart. It's being genuine and being authentic, and they want someone that they can be genuine and authentic with, and they want that from you in return, right? And so they want that sort of connection, and they are very generous also, so they're very giving in relationship, and they like when you give, obviously when you give back, but they can be very generous. Virgo, Venus in Virgo wants to be of service. So Venus in Virgo shows their love in a very interesting way. It's a little different. They'll usually do things for you. They'll do things that are very practical, and that you might not understand that this is their way of showing love and affection, right? So Venus and Virgo people, they'll want to show up in service of you. They'll do the dishes. They'll do your laundry. They'll drive you to the airport. They'll take care of they'll organize your desk. They'll take care of your bills for you, or like rearrange something. They'll walk your dog while you're at work. They'll be doing things that are very practical for you. And so sometimes if you have your Venus in a different sign that shows love in a very different way, like if you have Venus in Cancer, right, that wants to, show love and receive love in a way that's very nurturing and deeply emotionally connected, it can work kind of, but they might not understand that this Venus in Virgo person is just trying to show their love, and that's how they show their love. They might not say it, they might not share all their feelings, they might not be all lovey-dovey, touchy-feely with you, but they're showing you that they love you by showing up in service to help you. Venus in Virgo is also notorious for being a little bit critical of their partners. And so they can come across as being judgmental or criticizing, but usually that criticism is meant as constructive criticism, because they want to help you in any way possible. So if they see that you're doing something that isn't working out right for you, or if you're doing it a little bit wrong, or, they want to help you to become perfect. They want to perfect you. Not necessarily in the way where they want to change you, right? But they want to help you to learn to grow and to show up in a way that's a little bit more perfect. So they want to, if they're criticizing you, it's not usually because they just want to nag you or anything like that. A Venus and Virgo person is doing that to help you, right? That's one of the ways they help. They can pinpoint these little details and these little mistakes and these little things that you could change to make your life easier and to present yourself in a way that's a little bit better and more well received, right? And so that's one of their talents. That's one of the ways that they show their love, even if it might not come across that way to some people, right, who don't express their love in a similar way. I think the earth signs do a lot better with Venus and Virgo people. And, the water signs maybe a little less. But you can have your sign, you can have an earth sign and a water sign. They go really well together. They're just both more receptive in love, because when you look at, just kind of backtracking, and this is something I probably should have said at the beginning of the video, but you have to also look at whether or not your Venus is like in a masculine sign, a feminine sign, an air sign, water sign, earth sign, fire sign. And so the masculine signs are the air and fire signs, right? And so when you have your Venus in a masculine sign, you're going to be more demonstrative in love. And when you have your Venus in a earth or a water sign, especially with the water sign, you're going to be more receptive when it comes to love. So it's nice to have one in earth and one in, fire, or, one in air and one in water, or something along those lines, because one is going to be more demonstrative and one's going to provide that balance by being more receptive. But, either way, this is, you're showing up to show your love in whatever way is best for you. And so this is just to help you understand yourself and your partners a little bit better. But so anyway, so Libra. So Venus in Libra. Venus is actually at home in Libra, and this is actually a really nice sign for Venus. They can be very receptive. They'll listen to you. They'll provide balance. They'll provide harmony. They're another sign that likes aesthetics. They'll give gifts and flowers and things like that. But really the way that they show love is that they demonstrate to you what they want from you, and they expect you to do the same in return. So they pay attention to what you're doing, and then they reflect that back, right? And then they show you what they like and what they want. They'll take you like, oh, this is my favorite movie. This is what I like to do. This is where I like to eat. This is where, I do this and that. Like, this is how I do this thing. And so they'll be showing you what they like and what their interests are, but they'll be paying very close attention to what you like and what you want. And then they'll go and do those things. They'll be the ones that, they'll see that you really like romantic comedies and they hate romantic comedies, but they notice you like it, so they'll take you to a romantic comedy, right? And then they'll show you, this is what I like, and then they'll want you to do that in return. They're not going to tell you directly what they want, though. They're like the exact opposite, right? They're in opposition to Venus and Aries. And so while Venus and Aries is very direct and it tells you what it wants, Venus in Libra demonstrates what it wants and expects you to be able to pick up on that, right? So sometimes there can be a little bit difficulty there if you're not paying attention in that way, right? A Venus in Virgo might do well with a Venus in Libra, even though, they're not necessarily the most congruent signs in terms of the placement. A Venus in Virgo person would pay attention to those subtle details, those little nuances, the things that you really like. And then they, pick up on that. They do those things for you. A Venus in Libra would be similar, but they'd be demonstrating, what they want. And then they'd be doing what you like, even if they don't necessarily like it. So there's that reciprocal relationship. So it's a more indirect way of expressing and showing love and appreciation. Let's see here. So we did Libra, Venus and Scorpio. Venus and Scorpio is an interesting one. That's a little bit more difficult just because, well, first off, Venus and Scorpio is nothing to be afraid of. People see that and they're like, oh my goodness, that's so whatever, like they're going to be obsessive and possessive and this and that, and they can be. But for the most part, what they crave in relationship is a deep and intense emotional and psychological connection. They want to know you from the inside out, and they want you to know them from the inside out. And they're going to ask these really probing, really deep questions, and they're really and truly going to get to know you. And when a Venus and Scorpio person falls in love and decides that they want to commit, they're in it for the long haul. They are super, super, super loyal. And in the same respect, when the relationship is over, they can have a very difficult time pulling themselves out of it because of that deep emotional attachment. But once they do actually pull themselves out of that relationship, once they've fully and truly decided that it's done and they've ended it on an emotional level, on a psychological level, they're just done, right? So it's either they're in it and they're deeply, deeply in it, or they're not. It's very black and white, hot and cold. It is or it isn't. And so they'll either really, really like you or really, really love you, and they'll have that deep connection, or they won't. And it's very black and white. So they have very strong opinions on the people that they interact and engage with. They either really like you or they really don't like you, and that's the way it is. They also crave, because they're so passionate, right? And they crave that depth and that intensity. They need a really deep sexual connection in order to feel good about their relationship. And they want the other person to express that as well, that desire, right? They want that desire. Also, they tend to want to be in control in the relationship. They want to be the one who has the power. So that's where things can get a little dicey, right? If they feel disempowered, if they feel like the other person has the power and the control in the relationship, they can get a little panicky and they can start to become obsessive. They can start to become more possessive, more jealous of that person, or they can sometimes, and this is only if Venus is doing something else, maybe like Venus is, afflicted by some other planet or something. Sometimes when Venus is just in Scorpio, it can be this way, but they can become a little bit manipulative in order to get what they want in the relationship, in order to keep the power in the relationship, right? And so that's where the Venus in Scorpio can get a little bit more difficult, because they want to feel in control. And if they don't feel in control, they'll do what it takes to become back into that position of control. But they can, and they do want to be sort of obsessed with their partner, right? They will obsess over it. Usually it's not to the point where it's like, scary or anything or stalkery. They'll just, obsess over the relationship. They feel really, really intensely for that person and really passionately for that person. So they're constantly thinking about them. And they can be possessive, right? This is a sign that's associated with Venus being a little bit jealous, right? And they want their partner to show and display a little bit of that jealousy too, even if they don't say it straight up. And if they won't even admit it, to you, they do like that jealousy a little bit. So showing that you're a little bit jealous, that, you want to sort of claim them as as your territory a little bit, not to say I guess that's kind of a weird way to put it, but they do kind of like that, like jealousy a little bit. So that kind of shows them that you love them and that, you desire them. And then Venus and Sagittarius is a completely different, ball game there. Sagittarius Venus people, they want freedom, right? They want to maintain a certain level of freedom in their relationship. They approach relationship from a more jovial, fun, lighthearted sort of perspective, right? So they want to do things with you. They want to experience the world with their partner. They want to learn different things within their partnership. They want somebody who can challenge them on a deep philosophical level, who they can have these deep philosophical, religious, spiritual conversations with about the big picture. They want to talk about God, the universe, the way everything works, these deep conversations. And they want to be able to learn and grow through their partnership and within that partnership. And so they want to be able to do, really exciting things. They also are attracted to more sort of exotic relationships. So relationships with people from foreign countries, from people who have a completely different upbringing, a completely different perspective on life, because they can learn through that experience of that relationship with that person. And so, Venus and Sagittarius, they do like adventure. They do like that philosophical connection, but they also need a good amount of space. They don't want to be tied down and bogged down in a physical sense. So they need to be able to travel at their leisure, to go and do what they want to do when they want to do it. So you can't really tie a Venus and Sagittarius person down too much, because they'll get a little antsy, right? They're not going to like that very much. They don't like to be told what to do either. Venus and Sagittarius, though, is very jovial, very lighthearted in relationship. They tend to have more fun, uplifting sorts of relationships and experiences in relationships. They want to go travel the world with their partner. They want to go learn and experience everything. Okay. So Venus in Aquarius. Venus in Aquarius is, it's similar in the sense that they need freedom, but they need more like intellectual and emotional freedom. So Venus in Aquarius, they want to have more of a friendly relationship with you, right? So their partnerships are more like really good, really close friendships when they're in relationship. They can be almost appear like they're kind of platonic, because they're a little bit detached emotionally, right? They want to know you on an intellectual level. They want this really intense intellectual connection, this like scientific connection where you can, have these really scientific, really analytical, very, intense conversations where you can learn and grow from each other in an intellectual sense, versus Sagittarius, which is more about philosophy and God and the universe and having this big grand perspective on life. With Aquarius, it's more about knowing each other intellectually and understanding each other on an intellectual level. They want to feel understood, but they also want you to acknowledge their uniqueness, right? Their unique perspective on life, how intelligent they are, that type of thing. And they're going to acknowledge you for the same thing. They're going to acknowledge and appreciate your intelligence, your intellect, your ideas, more so than anything else. And they're going to give you a lot of space, and they're going to need a lot of space as well. But that space is not necessarily physical space where they need the freedom to run around and do whatever. They probably would like that, being a Venus in Aquarius, but they need emotional space, right? They can't feel tied down emotionally. They can't feel like you depend on them emotionally, and they don't want to be emotionally dependent on anybody else either. And so that emotional detachment to a certain extent is very important to a Venus and Aquarius person in order to feel satisfied and to stick with relationship, because Venus and Aquarius is another one, or is, a sign that's associated with sort of jumping around from relationship to relationship, really quick beginnings, really quick endings, unexpected beginnings and endings in relationship, where relationships can be a little bit difficult for them. And it's because of that emotional detachment and that need for emotional detachment, where if things get too heavy too quickly, they're going to want to break away, right? They're going to feel antsy, frustrated. They're going to start to be like, oh my goodness, even if they think they want that, that stability, that monotony, that same thing day in and day out. Once they get that, and once that person is like sort of dependent on them, they can feel trapped. And so, and I mean like an emotional dependence, right? So they don't like those codependent relationships so much. They need to be able to do their own thing and to have that freedom and that space. And, but, if you give them that freedom and that space, you can have a really awesome, really fun, really, intellectually stimulating connection with them. And it can be like a really wonderful, it's like marrying or dating your best friend, right? Except a little bit deeper than that, because you view it in like more of a relationship. And then, let's see, Venus and Pisces, that's the last one. Venus and Pisces people. Venus and Pisces is actually a really, really nice placement for Venus. Venus and Pisces people are deeply loving, deeply compassionate. They want this deep spiritual connection where they're like merging their soul with the soul of another person, and like you're becoming one soul, like that kind of thing. Like they want to understand you on the deepest level. They're deeply compassionate, deeply empathic, and they romanticize their relationships pretty heavily. So they can be prone to idealism in relationships. So they can be wearing these rose-colored glasses a lot of times where they see what they want to see in their partners. And so that's kind of one of the drawbacks of having Venus in Pisces. Even though it's this deep, beautiful spiritual connection, it's one of the best placements for Venus because you can connect so truly and fully and deeply with your partner, and you can understand each other on every level. And it's like this really compassionate, loving, wonderful connection that they crave and that they can achieve and they can attain. But they also have to bring in that opposition, right? The opposite sign of Virgo a little bit, so they can have a little bit more of a realistic perspective on their relationships. Otherwise, they can be prone to deception. They can be prone to delusion and disillusionment, where they are wearing these rose-colored glasses, where they see what they want to see in their relationships, and then, the veil thins or falls away, and they're like, wow, what is this? This isn't what I thought it was. Wasn't what I dreamed up in my head, but they do have sort of an idealized version of their relationships, but they're the most loving, most compassionate. They'll show you their love by forming these really deep bonds, these really deep connections, by understanding you emotionally, by displaying compassion and empathy and understanding for the people that they care about the most. And they'll want to show up to help you. This is also a sign where they'll sacrifice themselves for the good of like their partner and that type of thing, which, can be good and bad as well. So, Venus in Pisces can be a little bit difficult. I know that, it's one of those placements where people say, oh, it's the best placement, but I've seen the other side of it too, with my clients and my friends and family members and things like that, where, you can go too far on the side of martyrdom, and you can end up martyring yourself on behalf, for your partner, in order to help them, to save them, right? That kind of thing. And they like to escape into relationships. So when they're in relationship, they are immersed in it fully and completely. It's like this fantastical, wonderful experience for them. And so, that's sort of a means of escape for them, is into their relationship, into their partnership. It feels like a sort of refuge from the world and from the daily grind and the daily realities of real life experience, because the relationships tend to take on this wonderful, beautiful, magical sort of quality. And so that's Venus in Pisces. So we went through all 12 signs, and Venus in general is really important to understand if you're going to understand your partner, right? And so you need to understand how you show love and appreciation, how you like it to be shown in return. But you also need to understand, it's one of the few things that I really think is important in synastry, just to understand each other, right? Is really important. And so if you understand how and why your partner's showing love, if you're like a Venus in Pisces and you want this magical, immersive experience, and you have a partner who's a Venus in Capricorn who, I've missed Venus in Capricorn. Oh my goodness. I'm glad that I kept talking. So Venus in Capricorn. I can't believe I forgot that one. That's my husband. Venus in Capricorn. So when we put the timestamps, they're going to be out of order. But Venus in Capricorn people, I wrote it out of order, so I said it out of order. I apologize for that. But Venus and Capricorn people, they want to be responsible. They want to do things for you, to show up, to show you that they're responsible, that they can handle it, that they can take care of you in a very responsible way. It's sort of a stereotypical masculine display of love and affection, like, a 50s style kind of thing. Like they want to be the breadwinner. They want to provide for you. They want to help you. And, even if it's not that, they want to show you that they're responsible for you. They want to do things for you that are very practical, very pragmatic. They go really well with Venus and Virgo people. But they want to build you something. Like my husband has this placement, and, it's in opposition to my Venus, right? My Venus wants to just make you good food, sit on the couch, watch Netflix, do all these nurturing, comfortable, cozy things. And he wants to be out in the yard, building me planter boxes and, growing us food and making sure that the bills are taken care of on time and being responsible. So he wants to show me that he's responsible and he's taking care of stuff. And he likes to do tasks for me and that kind of thing. So that, that kind of show of love and appreciation, it goes very well with the Venus and Virgo. But it is very different, than some of the other ways of showing love. So they're one of the other placements that'll show love through service, but it'll be service that really highlights their ability to be responsible, right? And so that's Venus in Capricorn. So now we've gone through all 12 zodiac signs. And so understanding your partner's Venus is really important for understanding the way that they're showing their love for you, or even your friends, right? If you don't understand them, you think that they don't appreciate you because they have their Venus in Virgo and they're like, you know, walking your dog while you're out, but they don't want to be there to, they're not necessarily there to like talk to you, you know, talk you through a big traumatic experience or something like that. But if you go through a big traumatic experience, a Venus in Virgo person is going to show up and, you know, make sure that you're okay by like doing your dishes and taking care of, you know, daily activities for you so you don't have to worry about it so much. So they'll do things that are practical, you know, that kind of thing. But so yeah, so that's all 12 signs. I apologize that this was out of order. I would re-record it if it wasn't the very last sign that I said. Anyway, I hope that you found this video helpful and useful. And thank you again so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.